It's your favorite coach's favorite coach of Cortical Hoops, the gatekeeper journeyman of the YouTube basketball community. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the 2020 Brooklyn Nets. How are they going to be this year? They just made two huge acquisitions in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to bolster an already exciting young roster. According to you 2K GMs, this sounds like the next super team in the East. Or, if you followed this channel enough, you'd realize all signs point to this year's Brooklyn Nets getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs and wind up just like their failed 2014 star-studded squad. This will be very similar to our recent video about the current Los Angeles Lakers situation. First, let's talk about last year's Brooklyn Nets. The 2019 Brooklyn Nets willed their way to a 6th seed in the 2019 Eastern Conference playoffs, behind the all-for-one and one-for-all culture and a resurging D'Angelo Russell. The roster featured a lot of promising young talent like Caris LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Jared Allen. But I can't stress enough how important this culture was to the team's success. You have a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie willing to be a sixth man and embracing that role, in addition to veterans like Jared Dudley, who played a huge role versus the 76ers, although they fell short in the first round, by antagonizing the stars on the other team. Anytime you have one of your stars like Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, thinking about Jared Dudley instead of a playoff game, that's a victory for your team, because the one thing they're not doing at that moment in time is thinking about basketball. But this team reminded me of a college team, dancing on the bench, supporting each other, sacrificing their bodies, and even crying when LeVert went down due to injury. This chemistry allowed them to overachieve, at least in my opinion. The Nets' offense this year was also very fun to watch and seemed like a lot of fun to play in. Coach Kenny Atkinson loved to push the pace, get his guards out and running, and hunt for easy buckets. Their early offense usually involved a lot of drag screens and pick and rolls. They also ran a lot of variations of motion strong, a very common action in the NBA, to occupy the help defense and allow D'Lo and Caris LeVert to attack. And if they were stopped, their screen pattern variations were pretty genius for allowing guys like Jared Dudley to pop and Jared Allen to cut hard to the basket for some easy looks. Okay guys, now let's talk about why this team might struggle this year. Kevin Durant is the real deal. He's a true superstar. The big question with him is, will he ever be able to return to even 90% of what he once was prior to his injury? Only time will tell, but he will miss a big part of this season, and it's going to be hard for this team to make the playoffs without him. DeAndre Jordan is a nice pickup, but he's definitely going to have to accept that new role that he rejected with the New York Knicks, where he had to share time with developing young talent like Mitchell Robinson and Luke Cornett. One thing he does offer is a much stronger and physical presence than Jared Allen. Jared Allen has a very slender frame, and he was a little exposed in last year's playoffs when he was bullied by both Boban and Joel Embiid. But of course, the big concern is obviously going to be Kyrie Irving and his weird personality. How's this going to impact the team's unbelievable culture and chemistry? While Kyrie may be one of the most talented point guards of our generation and has a ton of playoff experience already under his belt, he is absolutely to blame for last year's Boston Celtics' major flop of a season. The team's defense suffered when he came back, and their chemistry was in shambles. And why do we know that Kyrie Irving was that extraneous variable that blew Boston up? It's because of a few things we've noticed about his character. Kyrie tries his best to be diplomatic in interviews and say the right things. However, his true narcissistic mentality always subliminally ends up surfacing in the things that he says and does. And this is because his public persona is just simply not congruent with his true personality. Like the time Kyrie called out his young team following a loss to the Orlando Magic, saying, "Experience. It's the best thing I can say is experience. We're lacking it, and because of that, we have a lot of learning to do," implying that the rest of his team was not ready for a deep playoff run against the Eastern Conference's best, a feat that only Kyrie had experience with on this roster. However, this year, he proceeded to have one of the worst playoff performances of any superstar player and essentially dribble his team out of the playoffs. Another very telling quote was when he was asked to comment on the Golden State Warriors by Sports Illustrated. Kyrie responded by saying, "You gotta give respect where it's due. They're a special unit, but sometimes special units can be beat by special individuals." This is a great example of where Kyrie is trying to sound diplomatic and build his persona as this team-first point guard. However, his true intentions shine through in his word choice. Given the context of the Celtics just falling short the previous year of participating in the NBA Finals, without him, the quote-unquote individuals he's referring to is himself. In other words, yes, the Warriors are great, but sometimes even a great team can be beat by a great individual, aka me, Kyrie Irving. This is the ultimate interview for encapsulating exactly what's going through Kyrie's head after a disappointing playoffs performance against the Bucks.
For me, the 22 shots, I should have shot 30. It really that great of a shooter. So I think that just the consistency of just going at it, staying aggressive is always going to put us in a great position.
You left the court a few seconds before your teammates, before the game was over. What did you think in those seconds going into the locker room?
The game was over.
Not only did Kyrie dramatically abandon his team before the game was even over, his assessment was not what the team should have done or what he could have done more for his team, but rather stating that he should have taken 30 shots, the exact opposite style that the Celtics used the previous year to take LeBron James's Cavs to 7 games. Because what's he really saying with all this? Since my teammates can't do it, I should do everything. This is another very telling part of the interview.
You know, they do a great job of loading too. So, you know, making the paint look crowded whenever I'm driving or wherever I'm going on the court. You know, seeing 2 or 3 bodies, sometimes 4, still kicking out and trying to make the right plays. Just continue to do so. And I try to utilize their aggression against them and still put my teammates in great positions while still being aggressive. I'm trying to do it all. So,
in saying that he's using the defense's aggression against them, he's pointing out how little he understands the concept of team basketball. The lane gets clogged up and the defense can load against him because they know he'll fall for the trap by accepting the challenge to take on a team 1 versus 5. The excessive amount of extra dribbles he takes allows the help defense to just zone off, and it also keeps his own teammates out of rhythm. The irony is, of course, he's not using the defense's aggression against them. The defense is using Kyrie's ego against him. Just look at how stagnant the rest of the Boston Celtics are when Kyrie has the ball. So how's this going to affect the Nets' chemistry on an intangible level? How will that all-for-one and one-for-all culture survive when their point guard is only focused on himself? There is no more martyr veteran glue guy like Jared Dudley to show them the mental side of the game. Will Spencer Dinwiddie be as willing to be that selfless 6th man when Kyrie's not even going to want to come out of the game and not going to want to pass to him when they're in at the same time? I also imagine this is going to cause a lot of problems for the Nets' freewheeling offense. Like I said earlier, they love to push the pace, but Kyrie loves to dribble the ball up the court and slow down the offense. Also, how does everyone expect a ball-dominant point guard to fit into the Nets' signature motion strong? This was very much a big part of their identity and their success. The Brooklyn Nets have no leader. KD is not a leader. He's an amazing talent, but he's never been an alpha. Even in Oklahoma City, the less talented Russell Westbrook was the man of that team. KD is obviously insecure, Kyrie is obviously a little bit of a narcissist, and neither one of these two has that emotional stability to be the rock of a team, like a Kawhi Leonard or a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan. Let's just take a look at how these 3 stars react differently to social media and haters. We all saw KD with his burner account on Twitter, clapping back at anybody who was making fun of him. He can't laugh at jokes at his expense, and he was always very defensive of his decision to sign with the Golden State Warriors. And we all know that Kyrie is a chemistry destroyer. Neither of these two are very self-aware, and they're very focused on how they appear to the exterior world. Now let's take a look at Kawhi Leonard.
I mean, if we go back to the beginning of all of this for you guys together, you come into this team, there were a lot of people questioning you. What did you hear about yourself?
Just the normal, but myself, I don't really look into it. I came here, like I said before, I text Kyle once I got traded, told him, let's make something special happen.
LeBron James famously had his social media blackout with the Miami Heat and opted to spend his time reading the Hunger Games instead of mean tweets. This helped shape primetime leader LeBron. You cannot be that steady leader for your team when you're constantly concerned with the outside world. Kawhi Leonard does not pay any attention to that. I don't think he runs his own social media accounts, and what other people think about him means very little. And for that, I think the Clippers are going to be a better team than both the Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets this year. While you might all think this sounds harsh or that I hate Kyrie Irving, I do not. Kyrie is a lot like a shark. I love sharks and I respect their nature and their beauty, but a shark is always going to be a shark. And if they sometimes have to kill seals, I don't hate them and I don't blame them. In fact, I recognize this delusionally selfish ego to be a key factor in sculpting Kyrie into the all-star talent that he is. I don't blame the players for being themselves, but I do get annoyed by the fans and the basketball community who can't see the situation for what it is. It's putting basketball IQ back decades. The Lakers are overrated, the Nets are overrated, the Nuggets and the Raptors are underrated. Real team basketball will generally prevail. But whether or not you agree with this, one thing is for sure, gone are those days of dancing on the bench for Brooklyn. And now begins the dawn of some intense passive aggression and toxic basketball. As always, guys, please like, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below, and we'll see you guys on the next one.